What happens when you cross mutants with Hadoukens? World contenders with world defenders, juggernauts, and an evil boss. X-Men vs. Street Fighter. Cashing in on the popularity of comics, particularly X-Men, and the popularity of Street Fighter video games, Marvel and Capcom would combine their powers to develop a new fighting-style arcade game in 1996. And with its fame, Toy Biz thought, why not? And included the game as part of their Videogame Superstars line. Other figures part of the Videogame Superstars line included Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, characters from Resident Evil, Darkstalkers 3, and Nintendo games. But for this video, I need you to shake hands before we take a look at Toy Biz Videogame Superstars featuring X-Men vs. Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom. Capcom would reach out to Toy Biz in regards to producing figures based on Street Fighter. Toy Biz figures of X-Men vs. Street Fighter would release in time for Christmas 1997, about a year after the game of the same name debuted at arcades. These figures came to retail shelves in 2-packs, with a retail price of $12.99. They featured one character from both sides of the aisle, and a diorama display to match a scene from the game. Series 1 included Wolverine vs. Akuma, Cyclops vs. Bison, Magneto vs. Ryu, and Sabretooth vs. Ken. This is how they looked in the Toy Biz catalog. Since they were already making Marvel figures, they would reuse molds and body parts and, maybe throw in a little variation. Series 2 would follow up at Toy Fair 1998, where they would show the first series again with updated cutaway carding instead of the rectangular style. Series 2 would give collectors Apocalypse vs. Dalsum, Gambit vs. Cammy, Juggernaut vs. Chun-Li, and Rogue vs. Zangief. This would pretty much round out the roster of the game, with the exception of Storm and Charlie Nash. Alternate Player 2 style figures would release with the second wave, or shortly after. But only 2 sets were made with this style, Gambit and Zangief, and also Juggernaut and Dalsum. The sequel to X-Men vs. Street Fighter would follow in arcades and the toy aisles, Marvel vs. Capcom. Neither roster was limited to characters from the previous games, which made for a great roster of toys in the series. The first and only was released in 1999, and again made up of 2-packs. Venom vs. Captain Commando, Captain America vs. Morgan, War Machine vs. Mega Man, and Spider-Man vs. Strider. These assortments closely followed the rosters of the games they represented. Jin was the only playable character from Marvel vs. Capcom to not receive a Toy Biz figure. The Incredible Hulk didn't have a figure based on the game either, but he's easy enough to find from another Toy Biz assortment. There's a part of me that's a little sad that Guile, Blanca, and E-Honda weren't included in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, as they would have made great Toy Biz figures. The Marvel figures released in the assortments aren't super noteworthy because most of them had already been made at one point or another. The Capcom figures, on the other hand, especially Mega Man, are must-haves. By now it feels like every toy company has had their hand at Street Fighter figures. But at the time, there was nothing better than the Toy Biz figures. Only Hasbro had attempted Street Fighter before, and they looked like this. It wouldn't even be a full year later that Street Fighter would be produced again by another toy company, Resource Toys. As for Toy Biz Videogame Superstars line, the next available assortments would focus on Mario Kart 64 and The Legend of Zelda before concluding in 2000. Hey, that's all for this one. If you enjoyed it, you can find our history of Toy Biz Nintendo Video Game Superstars figures, including Mario Kart, Legend of Zelda, and Diddy Kong Racing, on the FC channel. You can also grab a deal from us on eBay and peruse figurecollections.com for the most complete database of every action figure ever made.